Story time. So I was engaged in college, right? And my fiance married somebody while we were engaged. Let's get into it. For starters, hi, my name is Aubri Ebony Williams, and I now have a master's degree in marriage and family counseling. And let me tell you how that situation changed my entire life. So at the time, I had met my fiance in college. I had a friend who was like, hey, there's this guy that's coming back to the university. I think you should meet him. I definitely think he's your type. And I was like, okay. And I met this person while they were playing the piano, and it completely serenaded me. Let's fast forward like 2 months later, we were in a committed relationship. Let's fast forward 3 months later, and he switched schools. So then I switched schools so I can be closer to him. After he switched to that next school, he decided to join the military. And I was almost going to drop out of school, but I didn't because he encouraged me to stay, which I'm actually surprised he did that. I'm surprised he didn't tell me to quit school. That part was good on him. But when he joined the military, we found out that his duty station was going to be Fairbanks, Alaska. And that's when it all got tricky. So this all took place during the last semester of my senior year of college. And this was during the midterms time frame. I just started a modeling organization at my alma mater, Northern Illinois University. That was my third university. And before practice, I needed to go and run and pay a phone bill. So I went to my cell phone provider in store to pay my phone bill. And the woman behind the counter was like, oh, you usually do all your transactions with us. We see you made some new changes on your account. What happened? I said, no, I didn't make any changes on the account. So let me just pin that for a moment. My fiance and I at the time had a joint cell phone account. So I was going to pay the bill. So when the woman said that I made some changes to the account, I was like, well, could you tell me what changes have been made? And she was like, yeah, it looks like you added a new line. And I was like, added a new line. It should just be me and my fiance on this line. Who's the third line? I was extremely confused. She's like, well, here's the number. And I was like, okay. So I called the number. And when I picked up the phone, there was a woman who had a Spanish accent, and she pretty much was like, oh no, I'm just a friend. Insert name of this person, help me get a phone. I just a friend. I said, okay, whatever, strange, but whatever. And I hung up the phone. That number ended up calling me back. And I was like, I picked up and I'm like, oh, yeah, we just got off the phone. Who is this? And she was like, oh no, you didn't talk to me. I was like, okay, well, who are you? And she said, well, I'm such and such's wife. And who are you? And I just was like, I'm sorry. This has got to be a joke. Like, there's no way, you're saying that you're my fiance's wife when I'm the fiance. Like, I was extremely confused, but I wasn't going to go back and forth with this woman because I needed clarity, because all of that was taking place in Alaska and I was in Illinois. So, I needed to understand what was happening. After I hang up from talking to the woman, I pretty much text my fiance and I'm like, hey, like what's going on? Like, I'm confused. And he wasn't, being as responsive as I needed him to be. And I had to get back to rehearsal. I couldn't let go of the conversation that I just had. Like, who is this person? And why did my fiance feel like it was okay to add another person to our account without communicating with me? So I called my fiance back to back and he did not pick up. Now, the person that introduced me to my fiance at the time, I called him. I'm like, this woman just called me talking about she's my fiance's wife and I'm just really confused. Can you call him? Because I've been calling him and he's not picking up the phone. And so, after I called my bro, he called my fiance and I guess they had a conversation. And so then my bro calls me back and he's like, sis, I'm sorry. Like, yeah, he got married. And I was like, wait, what? Like, this is my senior year. This is, the middle of the final semester of my senior year. My whole life plan was to go and be with this person in Fairbanks, Alaska, start this family. I had even started applying for different behavioral tech jobs out in Fairbanks, Alaska, on the base that my fiance was on. So there was many records of me not just planning, but also, having conversations with people on this base because I was expecting to be a military wife. And so I was creating this military life for me up there. So I was really confused as to how my fiance decided to marry somebody else and who is this person that you just decided to marry? Like, I'm highly confused. I remember my fiance saying, "Hey, I just met these two women from Costa Rica, and like, I promise I'm gonna take care of you. Like, I would never want you to look like they look, like they just look really bad and they're not well kept. And I promise I'm gonna take care of you." And I was like, okay, well, I appreciate you wanting to take care of me. It was kind of came out of nowhere. And I believe his friend ended up dating one of the women. And so, this was just something I had found out in conversation. We might have had two conversations about this topic, but, never anything focused to where I would think it was an issue. So then my fiance calls me back and he says, "Baby, I'm sorry. I married her." And when I tell you I broke down, probably one of the most difficult breakdowns I've had in my entire life, because I had been with this person for 2.5, going on 3 years at this point. And, my whole life was centered around creating a life with him in Fairbanks, Alaska. And I was so confused and distraught, because this means that that future that I was planning is not going to happen. So like, what's my next plan? And so that conversation just went for maybe 15 minutes because he had to go, which, how rude of you to have to go. But I went back into my rehearsal and I couldn't keep going in my rehearsal. So I handed it off to Jacob, who is now like a really amazing stylist, and I'm really proud of him. But I handed the organization off to him because I was not mentally equipped to handle it. I bombed all my midterms and I told all my professors what happened, because not only was it something that I knew about, but my fiance had come to campus and had been in class with me, in his uniform. And so everybody was very much aware of this experience that I was going to get married. And, I was just highly distraught. Left rehearsal and I went home to my space. I was sharing a townhouse with a few other people. When I got home, my fiance and I finally had the opportunity to talk. And he pretty much said like, yeah, she paid me to marry her so that she can get her green card. She wasn't a citizen of the United States, and so she needed a green card. So I decided to marry her so that I can get money and get paid more money in the military, because you get paid more when you're married. And again, I was extremely confused, because if you're thinking about making more money in the military because you have a wife, you were already planning a wedding. So for the next 2 weeks, my fiance really tried to do this very weird situation where he wanted me to come up to Alaska and live this throuple of an experience with him and this 40-something-year-old Costa Rican woman. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, that's not what I want to do. And I honestly will be honest, I fell into a depression. I was very discouraged to go to class, but I did pull myself together, because I knew that, this couldn't be the end of my goal. And if I'm being redirected, then the redirect has got to be something great, right? Like I didn't see it then, but now I see the redirect was 100% needed. And I ended up emailing all my professors and they let me take all my exams over, and I passed and I graduated with a 3.5 GPA, honey, because I'm a smart girl. And I graduated, I want to say 6 weeks after I found out that my fiance had married somebody else. And so I ended up packing all of my stuff and I drove down to Florida and I moved in with my, at the time, stepsister. And so I moved to Daytona Beach, Florida, and completely changed my life. And within a year's time, I enrolled in a master's program. I assigned to a modeling agency, and I just began on a completely different journey. And I will say that it was tough, right? Like, because I was still dating, and I wanted to get to know other people, but I definitely was traumatized and haunted and insecure, because of what had happened in my previous relationship. And so, as you're dating and you're trying to sort who you can trust and who you can give your heart to, there is that teetering between don't trust anyone, but also learn how to heal so that you can trust again, so that you can ultimately get into something that is better for you. And today, I am so grateful that that man made that choice, because if he didn't make that choice, I would have been living in Fairbanks, Alaska, and I would have been married to somebody who was very likely to cheat on me, who was very likely to not put my needs first, who was very likely to disrespect me, to not be honest. Because if you can make a move like that with somebody that you've been with for 3 years, then there's no telling what I would have had to endure when working to create a family or be the wife to this person. I'm so happy and I'm so grateful that that experience took place, because now I'm sitting on the couch in the townhouse of me and my lover, and we're not engaged yet, though we did have a 2-year anniversary trip in Italy that we came from back in April. And none of the things that I live today would be even existent if that man had not made the decision that he made. Today, I have multiple agents. I have a master's degree. I've done amazing things like provide mental health support to Kai Cenat during live streams, or I created a series that was screened under Black Girls Rock in New York City in Times Square. I've been a co-star on TV shows like The Chi, and I've been in a few different movies that you can find on Amazon Prime and Apple TV. And honestly, the list just keeps going and going. And so here's what I say to you. To anybody experiencing a heartbreak, I know that at the time it might seem detrimental, but the redirect can be so much greater than you can even imagine. If you would have told me 12 years ago that I would have agents, I would be on TV, I would have close to 70,000 Instagram followers, I would have a master's degree, I would have campaigns, I would have shot for Marriott and Cream of Nature and Cantu and Target. If you would have told me that at that time, I'd be like, no, I'm just going to go to Alaska and go be with this man who's going to cheat on me. Like, myself right now would go back there and backhand that girl, because you don't know what you're capable of. And honestly, at that time, I had no idea the woman that I could become. And I'm grateful for the redirect, even though at the time I didn't see it. So trust the process. Heartbreaks are very difficult, but the journey is long. And when you understand that sometimes things happen for a reason, that reason can be greater than your wildest dreams. So don't be afraid to experience your hurt. Don't be afraid to love. Don't be afraid to lose, because you never know what one love can lead to. And when you do find that love that is your ideal love, not something you're forcing or not something that wasn't meant for you, but your ideal love, you will be so much more whole and complete compared to trying to create a life with someone that is not meant for you. Okay? That's my story time. I hope you followed and I hope you enjoyed that story, and I appreciate you watching. Please subscribe for all things self-love and healthy relationships, because I can tell you that I've been through bad ones and I am in an amazing one now. And I wish healthy love and self-love on anybody and everybody that is viewing this. Subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Ciao.